So I've been seeing comments about who won the debate, which I think is just it's 11:41 right now, which I think is just a really stupid question and just another depressing example of how humans are playing dress up and are oblivious to it. Um, like, what are the evaluations of this debate? Um, I don't. I'm. I mean, am I a fool? I'm here trying to invent how you can sort of track a disagreement, because we don't have a way of doing it, or at least not one that I've ever come across. Now, maybe, yeah, some philosophers have come up with some different things, but that's not a part of the culture, bro. So I don't know what y'all are doing to come to this conclusion that somebody won or lost the debate. Um, Here, let me put it this way. I'm assuming that you feel that someone won or lost the debate. And you may even have reasons that you can give. I want you to now take a breath and say, okay, but Eris, I see what you're saying. My little intuitions, my assessment, I couldn't even, you know, I, just say something humble. Recognize that, uh, I mean, first of all, how many of the claims did you fact check? Number one. Unless you fact check, you checked all of the claims, how could you evaluate anything? So that means that you're not evaluating the truth of what they said. Or you didn't need to check because all of the claims that were made were things you already knew the truth of. That's not a red flag for you? I mean, because you're living your life and sometimes you read stuff about politics. I don't know where you get off thinking that you wouldn't even need to check the claims that were made. Okay, so if you didn't check the claims that were made, okay, so we're saying that you're not evaluating the truth, then what are you evaluating? You're evaluating the performance, maybe, but not the performance in a superficial way, but you're evaluating how well they were able to represent their policies. What do you mean, how well? Like, how logically? Did you check the inferences? I don't understand what kind of analysis you did on the coherence of the presentation. Because here's what I suspect. I suspect you're watching it and there are just things that are singing and things that are choping. And basically, a sort of sum happens, keeping in mind the peak end rule, right? Whenever we evaluate something, we consider how we felt at the peak, or how we felt at the peak, it factors in, and how we felt at the end factors in. How did you make sure, because you didn't do any systematic thing where you evaluated the truth or logic of every claim, how did you account for confirmation bias? And so little all the errors that you could have spotted but didn't spot because it was your candidate making that error? Or do you just not believe confirmation bias applies to you? Okay, so now you may be thinking, well, here's what I'm saying by they won. They did a better debate. Okay, again, what do you mean? Because doing a good debate, I'm pretty sure if I came at another angle, you'd be defining that as being truthful and logical and effective in communicating your point. So is that it? Is it that last piece, the being effective in communicating your point? How do you know? Because the brain takes shortcuts, right? So if someone is speaking that you already agree with, you're going to be making the point in your head while they're communicating a point. You probably won't listen to most of what they're saying. And then you'll be judging their presentation of the point based on whatever you weave together here. Because it's much easier to string together stuff here based on clues from there, little keywords and stuff, rather than actually track those processes that are being communicated to you. And then who communicate their point better? But don't you think that like the other candidate just doesn't even have a point? So how are you assessing? And also, I mean, you probably have some straw man concepts of the other candidate's argument. So how are you trusting your evaluation of even their communication of their maybe true or maybe false, maybe logical, maybe illogical ideas? So if you're just trying to answer the question, who sung more? Well, that's going to be relative, right? It's going to be relative to the receiving system, right? So one claim could really sound really great to one person and really bad to another person, depending on. So are you just saying who sung more for you personally? What are you contributing by saying that? Hey, I mean, it sounds to me like you're basically saying who's prettier. You're not measuring anything. You're not checking anything. Whatever judgment you're giving is based on nothing. I mean, not a real evaluation of the truth, logic, or communication success, which you would need to talk to other people. And you'd need to do a proper survey of other people who disagree with you and so on. And how well do you think she communicated this particular point? And still, I don't know that that data is going to mean anything. Are going to mean anything. So, what the? I mean, it just shows how fucking simple we are. How we're absolute children playing dress up. Um, what I picture is like, here's what I picture. It's like a kid running for first grade class president, and you've got all these kids. Yeah. He drooled a lot, which kind of shows he was really thinking, and it's just the craziest evaluation shit. Um, and it would be crazy to other species. Whatever you use won't be crazy to me because I'm also a human, so I also have those same computational rules. But I mean, you would want to explain to some kids who are like, Ralph won the debate. You'd say, first of all, I don't think there's any such thing as winning or losing. Nothing was resolved. We didn't like, there wasn't one person who contributed more to a resolution than the other. There's no resolution. What do you mean one? Really, child, what you're saying is just one looked better than the other. That's all that you're saying. One set off fewer alarms in you than the other. Or one was more, sung more than the other. Rang more bells for you than the other. But sweetheart, those bells, those alarms, they're not very good. And it's a lot of system one stuff. So you do have better processes, but you didn't use them. You didn't have pen and paper while you were watching the debate. So this is not even human system two evaluations. This is just system one ups and downs. Yay and boos. I mean, how much better would it be if after a debate, main sort of things that we learned about the candidates were revealed? I don't know, just And I know all that stuff is harder than just who won the debate. And that's why I'm just like shaking at all these kids. They don't even realize, yeah, because it is hard work. We can't really ask kids to really think about a debate, can we? For them, it's all just, they just want to make it as simple as possible. Who won or who lost? And really, that's, what do we call that? Not mental shotgun, not intensity matching. It's the question replacement thing. Mental and so it's not literally who was prettier. It was really just who looked better, but not just physically, just who looked and sounded better. What is it? Intensity matching, mental shotgun, answering an easier, substituting questions. That's what it is. And you don't even, have you read Kahneman? Like, where the fuck do you get off judging something as important as a presidential debate without having read anything Kahneman had to say about judgment? What a joke. Anyway, let's take a look at this now.
High-stakes showdown here in Philadelphia between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Their first face-to-face meeting in this presidential election, their first face-to-face meeting ever.
A historic race for president upended just weeks ago. President Biden withdrawing after his last debate. Donald Trump now up against a new opponent.
The candidates separated by the smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls nationally and in the key battlegrounds, including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play. The ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
And your dumbass childish music. Like, why don't you add some dragons flying around in the background?
This is an ABC News special. The most consequential moment of this campaign. Kamala Harris.
Together, we will chart a new way forward.
Donald Trump.
We will soon be a great nation again.
Face to face. Historic. The ABC News presidential debate. Here now, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Their microphones will...
We look so fucking stupid. We don't even do this with pen and paper. It's crazy. You should have a display behind you where you're putting your claims and trying to justify them.
Only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage.
Hopefully there will be some kind of AI with the next one.
Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
See you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asked...
Where's our fucking pen and paper? Okay, hold on. Well, because I was thinking about how I could do this. I could split screen and type out, and then you could see that, but I really feel like writing.
His supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you
This is
believe
major.
Americans are...
All right, let's get my notebook in. Well, I want you to see it. Okay, 2024. 2024 Invert 12 Deldy. Uh, okay, 12 Deldy. Okay, 2024 Inver 12 Deldy 1208. Okay, so of course, so I haven't seen the debate. Is it possible? Is it possible that I'm gonna watch this and have an opinion on who won? Yes, I'm a human brain. So we'll see what I say. But then again, I've seen comments going both ways. Actually, maybe not, because I think I would only think so if it was such that both sides, oh, if I step there. Am I able to not step there? Okay. So, okay, let's just try to write with my left hand. So, ESSEC number 1. Okay. Economy and inflation, was it? How can we phrase that?
better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I
Why isn't this
was
working?
raised as a middle class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle.
In this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
Okay. So has American economy, no, American, no. Well, what did he say? Better off. No, we had to phrase that a little bit better than that. What do we mean by that? We mean, so we'll put the literal. Are Americans better off than 4 years ago? Okay. Immediately there's certain things you need to look at. So we have to do, oh, that's interesting. We have to do a relevance check. We've talked about doing a raise, which is a relevance, acceptability, and sufficiency check, or a reason, empiricism, imagination, and sorry, reason, yeah, empiricism, imagination, and skepticism check. So RAS or REIS, but very uncomfortable right now. But we have to do a relevance check for this, right? Because we have to do an assumptions thing as well. So I don't know. So relevance to candidacy. And that's not to say that it's irrelevant. I do think that it's relevant, but I also think that it involves certain nuances, qualifications. Um, uh, if there was a tsunami at some point during those 4 years, then that would need to be factored in. That would have to factor into how much weight, whatever the answer to this ESSEC is, so whatever the agreed upon KES is, how much weight it should have for the other thing. So she was vice president. Okay, so I don't know how to analyze that. It should definitely have some weight, but also she wasn't God. Um, so what did I say? It says and then assumptions. Um, Assumptions of this question would be that a generalization is possible. Generalization meaningful. Pop generalization meaningful and time generalization meaningful. Because she was vice president for 4 years, there's also a lot of other shit going on, right? Because what if the answer to this is what if the answer to this so what if, for instance, the answer to this is yes? Okay, let's suppose that the Keeb KES, the true KES, is yes. Well, here's my question about that. What's my question about that? That's right. If it's yes, then that would seem to go in her favor as a candidate. But what if you change the question to, are Americans better off than 2 years ago? And what if we find out that although we're better off than 4 years ago when we were in the thick of COVID, we are not better off than we were 2 years ago when we were starting to really recover. And here's the point I'm trying to make. There's a world in which that's interesting, because what it would suggest is that, well, first of all, of course, we're better than we were off 4 years ago because we were dealing with the pandemic. Trump, which interrupted some of Trump's policies. 2 years ago, and 2 years into her term, you could say maybe we're seeing Trump's policies be able to work now that we're recovering from the pandemic. And then she fucked it up over those 2 years. Right? I mean, this shit's not easy. That's why it's so annoying to me that anybody would have an opinion. I haven't even gotten through the question, and I'm seeing these different, not trying to say bravo me, but maybe a little bit. That's okay if I am. So is this like a meaningful amount of time? Yes, that was her term. But, also, how does the timeline of the effective presidential policies work? Because I think that's a mistake we make all the time. We think that as soon as someone steps in office, we hold them responsible for everything that's going on, and give them credit for everything that's good that's going on, until they get out of office, and then it immediately switches over to the next person because we're simple. So, economy especially seems like really meaningless to talk about the economy as though it lines up perfectly with presidential terms, as though there, first of all, isn't a lag. Ideally, they're doing policies that, instead of just sending checks to people, they're doing policies that take a little time, because we're looking at the symptoms of other problems. So they fix those problems, and then eventually the symptoms, go away, or, whatever. So, all right. So that's some stuff. All right, now let's see. So now her Kess, we're going to assume. So Kess 1 KH. We'll say there's just the one main Kess. We'll say 1 for now. Is going to be yes, I guess. Well, let's see what she says.
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually...
Oh boy. Okay. So let's start listing her sex. Okay. Middle class child.
the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working.
Okay. Only plan. Only plan. Only one plan help middle. Only who but middle. So you can also say Trump. No plan help middle. Okay. Alright, so we've got S1, S2, S3. Okay.
People of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And
okay. Dream supporter. Put ambition, dream supporter. That's 4.
that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because
okay, and I guess apparently this is her reason for this. Okay, so now she's got a concrete plan. Concrete plan. Oh, she's got a named plan. Look, I mean, we're so bad at this. That's why I need a partner here. You don't stand a chance. You didn't even try. And you're certainly not going catching yourself. You would put dream supporter, and which is kind of a bit, what am I trying to say? Not derogatory, but, it's a bit mocking. Ambition supporter sounds very different, right? So I went back at it. What's this brilliant thing I realized? Right, I said a concrete plan. I don't know if she has a concrete plan. Oh, but that is a claim that she's making, right? But is that even a claim that we'll see. But anyway, opportunity economy, was that it?
ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy.
Wait, that's the best aspiration supporter. Because we have to be charitable.
Because here's the thing. We know that we have...
So I guess we're not going to get any details right now. We're going to go back to justifying why we have this. Well, we know, because you're an aspiration supporter, okay?
A shortage of homes and housing. And
okay. Housing shortage, that's the thing. S5, S6.
Cost of housing is too expensive for
okay. Housing expensive. guess that's, why we have a housing shortage.
To many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and
Young families, young families need help. Yo, is this leading to yes or no, bro? That's 6. Because you knew this shit before, didn't you? That's what the humans will say. Is that why your voice is cracking like this? Is that why you need water, girl? Young family need help.
I intend on extending a tax cut for those.
Okay. So I will help the tax cut. All right. I'll help via tax cut. That. Okay. That's related. I don't know. I shouldn't be trying to. Why are you making that noise? Okay. What else we got?
Families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib.
Okay. Largest in a long time. I mean, what a claim. What does that mean? How long? Long time where one unit is 4 years? Or what about a long time? What if that's 4 years? It's a long time. It has to be when other people had the chance, they still hadn't done this. Okay. Largest. Yeah. And how do you even check something like that? On what, largest in what way? Relative to, like, largest. Or maybe there aren't different ways. I'm not a statistician or a numbers person. But I feel like there are probably other ways there are different values that could be appropriate there. She gave us a number, 6,000. Is 6,000, is that just the most nominally? Or relative to what people are earning, that's the most? Or relative to cost of housing, that's the most? I don't know, bro. That was 6,000. Don't know, bro.
Buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. I was actually.
By the way, we haven't even been listing the sirens, and we just need another board, don't we? We're not listing the sirens and the Porsches. The way she's like nervous right now, that's shopping, bro. So we have to list, at this point immediately, because first impressions, we know how important they are. So really, as soon as you open this shit, you need to list out some things that sing and some things that show. And we're going to erase this in a second, so we sure to get this down. Here's what sings. She looks nice. Aesthetic. A nice caring smile. A little bit pleading, a little bit weird. Also, so an anxious, pleading smile. Dry throat. And like swallowing. That chokes. Voice feels hollow. Quivering, it sounds like. Um, I want to include likely Porsches in this list, and then maybe at the end you do a thing of actual choppers. So like a chopper is, in this case, one chopper. One chopper would be, I'm getting the feeling she's disorganized. I don't know it's a chopper because maybe she's not disorganized. Maybe that's me. But, and also, what can we expect from a human mind that. So, uh, yeah. All right, what else sings? Aesthetic, caring, smile. Um, uh, uh, yeah, it seems smart. Like, smart aesthetic. Let's say beautiful here instead. Um, she seems like she's like polite or professional or something. I don't know. Like you feel like you could have a conversation with. I mean, not that you'd want to have a beer with her, but you feel like you could. I do anyway. I feel like I don't feel like she'd really be listening, but I know that there are system one-its that are tricked by this whatever. Feel me? All right, so anyway, so that's something that's important to do right at the beginning. Um, and unique things, I guess you would focus on, because like the quality of the video, yeah, but that should work in both of their favors. They should sing both, yeah. Okay. All right.
My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small.
It's a funny clarification. What was that? That was her team, maybe. Hey, listen, when you talk about this woman who kind of took care of you when you were younger and how you're inspired by her, we don't want people to think that you love her more than your mom. Your mom wasn't around or anything. So be sure to say, my mother raised me, and then I had an additional someone who was helping me. But you guys heard, my mother is my mother. She raised me. She did a good job. Okay.
Businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to startup small businesses, knowing they are part of the back.
And then we have to remember WYSIADI too, because I'm like hearing this information, and it's just like, but I know that there's other information. Because one thing for me, okay, let me take credit for one thing. WYSIADI ain't strong in me, bro. Okay, I usually feel like I have an incomplete picture. Okay. So, I'm thinking about, she's mentioned the 6,000, 50,000. I bet there are a lot of numbers in her thing. I'm not surprised two of the numbers sound good. You know. Yeah, has Trump read the plan? Is he allowed access to the plan? And then if so, in an actual intelligent debate, we'd be zooming in on the importance of these things. Well, if the audience was critical thinkers as well, or if they had critical recognition, so they were using pen and paper to try to, because I think these things are probably very important, a lot more important than some of the other fluff about her mothers and all that. She just keeps mentioning that she has a plan. Now we're getting to what the plan is, but she's not going to go through the whole plan. So I'm not impressed. I don't even know how to interpret these two numbers, but that's because I'm not part of that world. But yeah. But even if I were, I'm still not sure that y'all can really know what to do with those two numbers. And then what's really important, What about all the other numbers involved? Um, and this is nice. Where's this coming from? I mean, I think it's good for 50,000 for startups. That's cool, I guess. I mean, just so people can. I mean, people just make whatever makes money, and their consumers are dumb. So we're just headed towards an absolute capital idiocracy.
Bone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan.
Well, do we need more fucking startups? I mean, anyway, I'm not. Okay. I mean, what about art, you know?
Is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut, on the other hand, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy.
All right, yeah, just more about, yeah, I'm with y'all. Okay. Y'all, the backbone.
My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on every...
I mean, how is that? That can't be allowed. I don't know if she's straw manning it, but no way that in an event that you're acting as this big of a deal, should you be allowing someone to talk about the other person's policies unless the person has first presented it. Then in the rebuttal, absolutely, bro. That's crazy, bro. That's a crazy in a dialysis. That would be absolutely illegal, bro. That would be absolutely illegal. Okay, so okay, let's go back to those numbers again. How many of y'all were rewinding it?
Of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan...
I mean, because here's the question. Why not 100,000? Why not 7,000? Because that would obviously, those would be even more impressive numbers. So there must be a reason why 100,000 is no good and why 7,000 is no good. You must have gone to the maximum that you could, right? I mean, you're on stage. How silly would it be if you were actually planning to do 8,000 but only told people 6,000? You know, or you at least would say more, or 6,000 or more, right? I'm guessing you went to the maximum. Okay. How do I know this is the maximum? How do I know that? And then with his plan, you're talking about how it affects our deficit. What the fuck? Are you going to talk to us about how yours does? Or are we supposed to hear from him all the negative things about your plan? What's going on, guys? Or the details of your plan? And Jesus Christ. Anyway, all right, let's continue. So, Trump plan bad. Trump plan bad, but you haven't shown how your plan might not be bad in that exact way that you're saying that his is. Bad because Trump plan tax cuts. And that's what makes his plan bad. Which is so funny because you just fucking told us that you were giving people money. I mean, because the easily anticipated thing is that while while these middle class bums are using this free ass money for cribs and shit. These billionaires, who one would claim, are using these tax cuts for to give people jobs so they can get cribs and earn it, because that's part of the values of Americans, you know? I got all the talking points in here.
Is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20.
Oh, and you can add to our show list her, mistake there, saying that will result in five whatever two, uh, without the verb, result in adding to or will add to. That's a Porsche, of course. We should not judge her for that at all. But y'all love doing that. Y'all love that because you're dumb children, and so it's like, oh, I don't know how to think about sentences, but I know how to make sentences. And if they don't make sentences perfectly, well, hey, then I have something I can handle thinking about. Never mind the content, and completely never mind the missing content. That was offensive because I think I was doing like an ethnic accent there.
Percent tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would to get a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
What the fuck?
President
All right,
Trump.
I'm done. That's enough. Oh, he's about to speak now? All right. Well, I'm done with what Kamala said. We're out of space, really, anyway. Let's see what Trump has to say.
2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries.
So off the bat, he does something which is good, which is he dounces or sears. I don't know exactly what the word will be. Dounces when it's agreed upon. Sears when you're calling it into question. He's doing something in the middle. Dounces when it's we're agreeing to reject it, both of you. Sear is when one of you wants to put it up for rejection. But there should be something that's a little bit more than sear, where and you're only allowed to do it if it's like someone's talking about you and they say something untrue about you. Then you can just straight up say, I'm rejecting that. They can, of course, appeal. But I don't feel like searing it. All right, let's do it. Let's say that we would call this a sear. A sear. Or expressing skepticism. We want to use our imagination. What else are some things? We want to check the empiricism, check the reasonability of it. So that's good, because it's always good when they actually respond to each other. So he told us one of the things I didn't write down about the sales thing was not true. So was it or was how do you guys not just get overwhelmed at this point? And well, I know what happens, because you guys just, when the system 2 gets overwhelmed, not that you even gave system 2 a chance to work on it, but when it gets overwhelmed, well, what happens is system 1 just runs. I have a deficiency, okay? I have a quality that is not adaptive, at least not as a general trait. It may be good every once in a while to have one unlucky person to have this curse in the community because it can help the community, but for the individual, it's no good. And here's my curse.